What would it feel like to be truly, deeply happy, regardless of your circumstances? Did you know that happiness is a choice and not a result? That you can create your life on purpose? Join us now to learn more. This is the Time to Rise and Thrive radio show. And here's your host, mindset coach, and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott.
Hello and welcome to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott of Subliminal Mindset Mastery here in London, Ontario, and we are having a really beautiful wintry day and lots of snow. I've already been outside once today. My son is outside right now taking care of another crack at the shoveling. We've gotten a lot of snow. So there's something I'm going to share with you when we get into the show because I had this like boom awareness come to me this morning. It was really lovely. So on Time to Rise and Thrive, we talk about your subliminal soundtrack and we talk about how to get it to work for you rather than against you. And I'll give you a little bit of a definition about that in a few minutes. We also talk about seeing your unique beauty and appreciating yourself for how you actually show up in this world for yourself and others. And how does it get better than that, right? How does it get better than that? Yeah, we all need to start to understand the impact that we actually have and the ripples sometimes that come out from that impact point can be absolutely mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. So this morning, our show, or this afternoon, I guess, our show is about strength and resilience. So we're going to be talking about how to build your mindset and your emotional muscles, because believe it or not, we have those too, and how that will help you build a strong foundation that will withstand any storm. So we've all had like the last year for sure. We've all had these challenges that have been coming sort of left and right. Nobody knows what to expect. Nobody knows what's coming and that sort of stuff. So what would it be like for you if you could have this mindset that just is like, it's all going to be okay? It's all going to be okay. What would that be like? Maybe you've already got that. Maybe it would be a shift, but we're going to talk about that as we go through today's show. So, what is resilience? What is resilience? This was something I've spent a lot of time thinking about that, and I'm just gonna let you know I'm not feeling terribly well, so I've got a bit of a frog in my throat this morning. So please forgive me for that. But what is resilience? So very simply, resilience is the skill that helps us to get back up when we get knocked down. On a deeper level, resilience can be about incorporating that learning from whatever has knocked us down, whatever circumstances have presented themselves in our lives, and using that new knowledge to reach a higher level of purpose and success and awareness in our lives, right? So, when I was thinking about this morning, I was like, okay, subliminal soundtrack. Oh, I should actually give you that little bit of a heads up on what we're talking about. So, the subliminal soundtrack is that loop that plays in the back of your head all day, every day, 24/7, and it's made up of all of these messages that we have picked up over the course of our lives. So, every conversation, every lesson, every experience that we've ever had has given us some type of learning. Some of it's positive, some of it's negative. Some of the negative stuff we actually can use in a positive way to push ourselves forward. But where this becomes problematic is when we're on autopilot and those messages are there, those messages and learnings are there, and they're actually creating limiting belief systems. They're creating barriers that actually stop us from moving forward in a healthy, positive, successful, abundance mindset kind of space. So most of us have at least some negative conditioning that we have received over the course of our lives. And that's the stuff that we want to address. We want to address the stuff that holds us back, the stuff that's pushing you forward. Run with it. Just run with it. Take it. Go as far as you can with it because there's no point in changing something that's not fit or not broken, right? If it's working well for you, you just keep going. So the thing of it is that what we believe to be true will always be true for us, whether it's based on correct information or even when it's based on wildly incorrect information. It's that belief that it is true that causes us to hold on to it and create our lives around that. And I'm talking about everything like your money flows, your career choices, your relationships, your belief in yourself, your willingness to take risks, all of it is impacted by the subliminal soundtrack. So, how does that relate to strength and resilience? So this morning I thought about this and I said, okay, if you believe that you're not strong, if you believe that you don't have the strength to get through whatever the circumstance is in your life, or e, that it's someone else's job e, to get you through these circumstances or protect you or take care of you. And I mean, there's a certain amount of that that goes on in very healthy relationships too. But if you believe that it's not your job and your responsibility to deal with these things that come up. And this one is going to be, I'm telling you, this one is going to be sort of a button pressing thing for me anyway, because I've noticed that today. There's been some resistance that I have been working through as I've been getting ready to do your show today. So if we believe those things, then we are likely to adopt sort of a victim mentality, and that is not healthy. It is not healthy. It does not serve you in any good way. Or maybe it does. Maybe your victim mentality makes it so that other people will do all the heavy lifting for you and you can just lay back and, you know, eat your bonbons and be fanned by somebody or something. I don't know. Maybe there's a positive place for that. In my world, that is absolutely not the right way to go in my world. And that's what I'm talking about today. So that's what we're working with. So when we have this victim mentality, we require somebody else to rescue us. And what might it be like for you to be able to believe that it's possible for you to not require someone to rescue you and for you to rescue yourself? What might that be? What might that, or how might that actually improve your circumstances, your life, your belief systems about yourself? Just saying. So, on the other side of things, if we believe that we can get through any storm, that we can get through any circumstance that presents itself in our lives, if we believe that we are smart and resilient and we'll figure it out because we always have, you'll build that resilience muscle. And we're going to talk about that in the second segment of the show. I want to talk about this idea of this being a muscle. Interesting. It's an interesting way to perceive that, right? So it will get stronger and stronger and stronger over time the more you use it, just like any other muscle in the body. And we're going to get into that a little bit later. See, I can go off on these little things. And then before I know it, I've talked about the things that aren't meant to be talked about yet. Yeah. See, this is what happens when I'm not feeling well. I'm a little bit fuzzy today. I'm a little bit fuzzy, but we're going to get through this. So, I have written an article. It is currently on the phoenixcoach.ca website. We are working on the other website, the subliminalmindsetmastery.com, but currently we still have the phoenixcoach.ca uh, up and live. And there's an article on there called 3 Easy Ways to Reset Your Subliminal Soundtrack. Now, I've rewritten the article and it's much, much better now. So when the new website goes live, you're going to want to have a look for that. You're going to want to have a look for that. Yeah, it's 5 steps to create a mindset wired for success. Ooh, yummy and juicy, yummy and juicy. So, where this thing came up for me, really, a few years ago, my son had hurt himself. I think I don't know what he cut his hand or something like that. So I had to race him over to the emergency room. And while we were sitting there waiting to be seen by a doctor, you know how they have the stack of magazines and whatever. So I'm sort of going through them and I see it, God knows what it was. It was one of the more popular magazines. You see it everywhere. And at, as I was going through them, this title caught my attention. It was something about resilience. Couldn't tell you what it was, but one of the things that I do is I like to read. I like to sort of consider new ideas or learn new tips. And sometimes there's like that golden nugget that you haven't yet heard about or read about or whatever the case may be. So if I'm in a position where I'm waiting for somebody and in a waiting room and I can find an article that catches my attention, I will I'll read that article so that I can maybe pick up another tidbit or another tool or another idea that makes sense so that when I'm working with people, because that's what we do. We have this toolbox and it's full of all of the things that we've learned before. And so anytime I have an opportunity to add to that toolbox, I grab it. So I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for my son to be seen by the doctor, and I'm reading this article about resilience. And I remember having this reaction to what I was reading because it was very simplistic. It was very simplistic. And I remember thinking to myself, what does it say about us, or why do we need an outside source to tell us that we need to keep going, that we need to strive, that we need to not give up, that we need to get back up when something has knocked us down? I don't understand, and I still struggle with this. I don't quite understand why it is that we need an outside source to come in and tell us this, because the fact of the matter, in my humble opinion, is that resilience is a natural state of being. Resilience is a natural state of being. So follow me on this, okay? I want to talk about this in a way of like the natural order. It's a natural thing for us to desire to continue living, right? And really, if you boil it down, isn't that what resilience is? It's a refusal to lie down and die. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep striving. I'm going to keep moving forward. That to me is what the resilience is. And I know, like, maybe I was just really lucky because I remember when I was growing up, it was okay. So you fell down, you get back up, you dust yourself off, and you get on with life. And maybe other people didn't have that experience. And that's why this to me seems like it should be so innate. But for some people, clearly, there's some learning to be done. And yeah. So anyway, I was thinking about this when I was writing my stuff this morning, and I started to think about things in nature. So how often do we hear about a story? I don't know. Maybe I like watching those what do you call those? The shows about nature. You know what I'm talking about, the documentary type shows where they have all the animals and they show you like this pack of wolves or this pride of lions or whatever the case may be. I really like the ones where they identify members of the group and they sort of tell you the story about those, like this particular animal. So we're going to talk about mama, or we're going to talk about whomever, right? And they've got names. And those are the ones that I really, really enjoy, because to me there's like this story that I can follow, and I like stories. Like, obviously, if you if you've watched the show before, you probably already realize that. So I like the stories of following through, and I find it really interesting and fascinating sometimes, because sometimes it really closely relates in my mind to the human experience, and sometimes it's like way over there. And so it's really quite interesting on any number of levels for me to watch these shows. And I'm thinking about this and I'm like, okay, so how often do you watch a show or a movie, or you hear a story about an animal who has been injured? Whether that's by, being hit by a car, or maybe they've been shot. Maybe they've had a fight with the other animals. It could be any number of things, right? And so that animal sort of goes off by itself and allows itself some time to heal and all of that process that it needs to go through. And sometimes we don't see them come back, and that's because they died, right? And sometimes they come back and you're like, yes. You're like, yes, there they are. They came back. They fought their way through it. Yes, it's the underdog thing, right? I'm sure it's the underdog thing. But it's that natural state of being where if I'm injured, if I come across a challenge that I am not able to triumph over, like I'm either gonna win or I'm gonna lose. I'm either going to live through this or I'm going to die. And there's not really a whole lot of judgment around that in the animal kingdom. Like, you're gonna live or you're gonna die. Very simple. And they don't tend to make this such a wrongness that, maybe we humans, we overthink things sometimes or something. I don't know. Anyway, so it's very simple though. And then we read these stories about the animals that are caught in a trap and they chew off their limbs. And I know that's gruesome, but they chew off their limbs because that is their natural state of being. I am getting out of this trap. I am not going to die today. Right. So the extremes that we can go to in order to just keep going, just keep living, just keep surviving. And I really feel like that just is something that should be very innate in us. And maybe because we humans overthink things sometimes, maybe that's the thing. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's something that I'm finding very fascinating as I'm thinking about this. There's also one other thing that I'm going to share with you before we go to break, and it's going to be really quick. I was walking through a park last year. It was a beautiful day, and I was walking through this park, and I remember there was this cement block, and I don't know what it was inside it. I mean, it could have been something that was built and protected. I have no idea. But I remember seeing this really big, beautiful, bright dandelion that and like feet off the ground, 3, 4 feet off the ground. And here it is, like poking out of the top of the cement box. And I thought, good Lord, like talk about resilience, right? Talk about resilience. There's probably not even any dirt, or like if there is, it's like just because it's a concrete box, right? So there's a crack in there with a little tiny bit of dirt, but holy cow. Like this thing it looked strong and it was bright and everything like that. That stuff is fascinating to me. So that's what I'm thinking about, the nature of things, the natural state of being that this resilience to me is sort of it signifies. So we're going to head to our first break, and when we come back I'm going to share a little bit more about this whole thing, resilience and strength and building that muscle. So stick with us. We'll be right back.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. Today we are talking about strength and resilience, how to build your mindset and your emotional muscles, and how that will help you build the strong foundation that will withstand any storm. Love it, right? Love it. And I want you to perceive that just for a second. Withstand any storm. There's a potency there. There's a potency like, yeah, like a challenge, like go ahead, throw it at me and let's see what we do with this one. Do you see what I'm saying? Feel that. Just feel that in yourself. It's kind of fun. Kind of fun. All right. So let's talk about this thing, this resilient thing. What does it actually mean? And this one, it's sort of it's so back and forth in my mind, so back and forth. And, I'm probably going to be pushing some of my own buttons. I might push some of yours. And if I do, maybe just stick with me because there's probably going to be a nice little wrap up in a minute. And it might just help you work through something. I don't know. It helps me work through something every time I do one of these shows. So There's a thing that's been going around for quite a long time. And I want to say it's called keep calm and carry on. And I gotta tell you, it kind of pisses me off. I do not like that thing. I do not like that thing at all. And I don't quite know why I have such a strong reaction to it, but I do. And so then I'm thinking about this morning and I'm like, okay, well, that's sort of, there's a thing. There's a thing. Oh, Jen says dismisses your feelings. Yes, and it absolutely does. It absolutely does. Yes. So from this position of the resilience though, does it not sort of like just kind of keep going, keep calm and right? Keep calm and carry on. Maybe. And then I was thinking about, okay, what about intestinal fortitude? Have you heard that say? Intestinal fortitude. Doesn't that sort of just like give you that, that I'm gonna push my way through this, right? Oh, Jen says that she doesn't know what it means. I don't even know how do I word this? So the intestinal fortitude, like we know what intestines are, but I think I'm going to go with guts. Let's go with guts. Like I've got the inner strength, right? Because fortitude is about strength. So I've got that inner strength that I'm going to just push through anything that comes my way. And that can feel kind of yummy, right? So we've got this sort of like, okay, keep calm, carry on, keep going, keep going, keep going. And then we've got this like push through. And I'm like, I don't really feel like any of those quite give it the feel. I really feel like it's simply a refusal to lie down. It's a refusal to, I mean, I might not have no control over anything that's happening in my world. There are things that are happening right now in our world that we have absolutely no control over. But I will promise you that I am doing everything I can to get to the other side of this thing. And I am not most of the time allowing myself to get too deep into the lack of hopelessness and the fear and all of that kind of stuff. And so this is what I want to talk about in this particular segment of the show is this like belief system. It's the self-worth. It's the I know who I am. I know what I am. I know what I bring to the table. I know that I'm going to get through this, whatever it is. And I promise you, I may or may not share some of my stuff around this stuff because some of it's kind of personal. But the thing that I thought about, so shoot, I wish I'd brought her over here. I have this fairy, and she's about this tall. And I remember a few years ago having this sort of vision. I was probably meditating or something at the time, and I remember having this sort of vision. I call her Esme. She is absolutely beautiful. She's like the shoulders back, the breasts out. She's looking like this, she's like, and I just have a feel for her, like an energy of her. There's this strength and potency and like, okay, bring it on. You know, I don't know why I have this sense about this one, but I do. So Esme to me it sort of embodies that like, all right, I got this. And there's that potency feeling. And I remember this vision. It was really quite profound. So I was picturing her standing over there and we were on a bluff and it was dark. There was a storm raging around us. There were waves crashing at the base of the bluff. So, like a bluff is sort of like the thing that juts out into the water. So it's not like the main beach or whatever the case may be. It's sort of like a cliff that juts out into the water. And so I could hear the waves crashing at the bottom of this and I could feel the winds whipping around and you could hear the thunder. There was lightning, and there she stands right on the edge of the bluff. Now, if you've ever been in a place where there's some sort of lightning storm, the best advice is don't be the thing that's standing, the tallest thing standing. Don't do that because the lightning will find often the tallest thing in the vicinity, and that's where it will hit. But in this vision, Esme was standing there, with her shoulders back, and she was just like, bring it on. Bring it on. She was unafraid. She knew that she was going to get beyond this storm. She was embracing the storm, was how it felt to me in this vision. And I remember just thinking about the potency, just that potency, that oh, what is the word? That like almost rebellion against the circumstances. Like, go ahead and try to bring me down because you're not gonna. You can try. And then if we take it back to that nature thing again, right? It's like either I'm gonna survive it or I'm gonna die. I have no idea which one I'm going into it, and I'm okay with either because I'm not going down without fight. I'm not going down without a fight. Okay. And I mean, most of the stuff that we face in this day and age is not quite that extreme, but there are things that we do face that are of that sort of flavor. But that was this sense, and I've used that in meditations, I've used that in lessons, I've used that so many times. And every time I remember that, every time I tap back into that, it's like, oh man, the steel in the spine, the like just the potency of that is so it feels so good to me. It feels so good to me. And the thing of it is that we all have that. We all have that, but I don't know that we know it. And so that's part of the yummy thing about building this resiliency muscle is that thing where we're becoming aware of our own depths, we're becoming aware of our own potency, the strength that is within us that maybe we haven't seen. Maybe we haven't had an opportunity yet to see what we're made of. And that's sort of what I feel like when I'm talking about this whole idea of resilience. So, one of the things that I was considering is what can mess this up? What messes us up? Because most of us don't walk around with our shoulders back and going, okay, bring it on, right? Like most of us don't do that on a regular day-to-day basis. But what can actually mess it up so that we don't understand that we have this resilience? And I'm going to go someplace and you may not like this. I'm just giving you a heads up, giving you a warning because this was what came to me this morning. It's that conditioning thing. It's that conditioning thing about what it means to be male, what it means to be female, and things are so confused right now for some people because of all of the gender fluidity and stuff like that. I'm not going into the gender fluidity because I have no idea even how to express this when we go into that territory. So I am very specifically sticking with the ideas of what it means to be female and what it means to be male, okay? Very specifically sticking with that for the purposes of this conversation. So, what does it mean to be feminine? If we look at historically, if we look at the stories and all of that kind of stuff, right? It's the princess. It's the princess who's sweet and pretty and kind and needs to be rescued. Right? She needs to be rescued, and that's why the prince comes in on his white stallion and he does the rescuing. So, in that sort of way of looking at masculine, feminine, I know we don't tend to do that, but there is a conditioning piece that happens. So, what if you're a woman like me who, you know, I don't be that. I mean, I can be sweet, but I don't need anyone to rescue me. I don't need anyone to come along on his white horse and carry me off. Now, I mean, I suppose there might be limited circumstances where I might need some serious help, but for the most part, I take care of stuff myself, right? I make my own living. I have my own home that I take care of on my own. All of that stuff, I'm okay. I really don't need another person in my world now. I mean, that doesn't mean that I don't enjoy having somebody in my world, but my life is not um, diminished by another person. If there's going to be another person in my world, they need to add something, add some flavor, add some fun, add some whatever, right? They need to bring something to add. And I also don't know how I feel about this idea that, of a man who would feel the need to rescue me. It kind of like, do you see what I'm saying? It sort of throws everything sort of off kilter. And so like the women who need to be protected and rescued, the men who are the rescuers and the protectors and all of that kind of stuff. For people who grew up in my generation, and I would feel very comfortable saying in generations before that, I think that some of this stuff has caused a little bit of that conditioning that can mess us up on our subliminal soundtrack, because those were some of the messages that were ingrained in us as we grew up, as we lived our lives. And I'm just realizing I'm way past time for break. So I'm going to wrap this thought really quickly, and then we're going to head to break and we're going to come back. The thing that I would really like for us to all consider is that those ideas can be really toxic. And are they even based in fact? Because we all have heard about the mama bears and the mama wolves and the lionesses and all of that sort of stuff. Again, natural ways of being. Natural ways of being. You come after my cub, I'm going to rip your head off. That's a natural way of being, right? For a lot of us. Maybe not for everybody. Oops. Did I just say something very, very personal about myself? Oops. All right. So we are going to head to our break here. You are with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. Today we're talking about strength and resilience, and we are going to talk more about this idea of how to build your mindset and your emotional muscles and how that can help you to build a strong foundation that will withstand any storm after the break. And I'm going to throw another like woo at you when we come back. So stick with me to hear this interesting perspective. We'll be right back.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? Our subliminal soundtrack plays in the back of our minds 24/7. It's filled with everything we've ever learned about money, relationships, body, and sexuality, about every single aspect of our lives. If you don't have what you desire, the Subliminal Soundtrack Reset program may be the very key to changing it all. In this 8-week program, designed by Jackie Mott, you'll learn to replace messages that stop your desires with new ones that not only support you in creating what you truly desire, but expand your life to higher levels of joy and pleasure. Go to phoenixcoach.ca today to sign up and begin creating your life on purpose.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. Today we are talking about strength and resilience and how to build those muscles. Oh, yeah. So a little tiny bit, I'm not even going to go far into this today, but a little tiny bit about what's going on in the business is that we have rebranded as Subliminal Mindset Mastery. And I'm not sure if you can see that, but that is the new logo, which I am absolutely in love with. Absolutely in love with. We are working on getting the new website up and launched, and there's some work to be done, but we're working through it. I've got some great people helping me with that. So thank you, Brent. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, everybody who's contributing to all of these projects right now. Yeah, so monthly mindset masterclass. This is something that came to me a few months ago, and we started it in January. So the first Monday of every month, there will be a masterclass live Zoom call on Facebook. It's currently living inside the group, the Subliminal Mindset Mastery Community group. So if you'd like to join the group and join us for those calls, that would be great. So also inside that group, we are doing a Monday night sort of just check in, chat, bring a glass of wine, bring a cup of tea, wear your jammies, I don't care. But just to check in, just to sort of keep that sense of community and how's everybody doing? Because the challenges that we're facing right now are a little bit tricky. And I was really feeling like I was missing my community. So I've set this thing up. Next Monday, we are going to be talking about what it means to truly love yourself on this masterclass. So that'll be about, I think, 7:30 p.m. If you're interested, check out the Facebook page. There'll be some information on there. So Subliminal Mindset Mastery is the Facebook page. Subliminal Mindset Mastery Reset course is currently, the beta group is running. I'm already getting some amazing feedback. I'm loving it. And yeah, we've only done one session and already getting some like, wow, I'm having such amazing breakthroughs. So it really is awesome when we put into action something that we've been working on and we've been waiting to do. It's wonderful to get that kind of feedback. So that's kind of the stuff that's going on in my business world right now. Oh, Jen says it's amazing. Yes, she's one of my beta groupies. I came up with that the other day. I was like, oh, this is too funny. This is too funny. Beta groupies. Yay. So yeah, now we're gonna get back to the show. Apparently Jen doesn't mind being called that. All right. All right, I love it. Okay, so we're going to get back to our show. Today we're talking about how to build your mindset and your emotional muscles and how that will help you to build the strong foundation that will withstand any storm. And I promised you that I was going to throw a wrench into this when we went to our last break. So now get ready. Here you go. So we're going to talk about breaking down and how that actually helps us to build these muscles. Right? You don't often hear about that. And one of the things, again, getting back to this idea of what messes us up with this stuff, one of these things that happens is that for some of us who believe ourselves to be very strong and resilient, it can be very difficult when we're in these circumstances where everything is falling apart. So, just really quick, a few years ago, I had three of the beings that had been part of my everyday life gone inside 6 months. One dog passed away, the other dog passed away, the marriage ended. Three very, very important things in my world ended within 6 months, and it knocked me for a loop. It knocked me for quite a loop. And then, other stuff happened that just added and compounded this. And I was just trying to keep going. I was trying to figure out a lot of things like, where do I go from here? What does my life look like? What do I want? What do I desire? What would I like to create for myself? All kinds of stuff that you're trying to figure out. And there came a time when I was really struggling and I went to see the doctor. I went to see the doctor and the doctor said to me, even strong people have their limits, Jackie. Even strong people have their limits. There have been a lot of hard hits that have come your way in a very short period of time. And they have like scales for this stuff. There's one thing that I remember seeing years ago, and it was like, okay, so here's a list of things. Tell us which things have happened within the last year or 2 years or 5 years or whatever. I don't know all the details, but there's this list. And so one of them was a major move. One of them was a major illness. One of them was, a marriage or the birth of a child, a death, the ending of a relationship. All of these things are considered to be major impactors in your life. So they look at these things when they're sort of looking at where you're at in your life and whether you're doing well or you're not doing well or whatever the case may be. They look at this list and they say, okay, how many of these things have happened to you in this period of time? And every time I've worked with that, I promise you, every single time I've worked with that, they're like, wow, wow. Okay, you're doing well. You're doing good, Jack. You just keep going. But here's the thing, we can get to this place where it's like, I'm not supposed to fall apart. I am not supposed to fall apart. Can you feel the energy of that statement? There is no allowance for me to have whatever feelings I have in that state. And going back to that keep calm and carry on, right? I think that's why I dislike this so much, that statement so much, because we need to allow ourselves to fall apart sometimes. We need to allow that. We need to have those breakdowns. We need to do that because here's what happens when you don't. When you don't, you are cultivating the exact space for mental illness to come up and knock you flying. There was a story. I was working with this counselor out west a few years ago, quite a few years ago now, and he told me a story about this old man that he had just started to see. And I have no idea how old he was, but he had been in a war years and years and years ago. Like, what is that now? 60, 70 years, whatever it is, since the last major war, and he had been in it. Now, he had come home and he had gotten on with his life. He had a wife, there were children, there was a life, and he had gone through this life, and this thing had not bothered him throughout that entire time. And then all of a sudden, his wife passed away. His wife passed away, and the man fell apart. And as they were working together, what they realized was that it was this trauma that he had experienced in that war, but he had covered it up and he had focused his attention on the wife and the kids and the job and the like all of that stuff. And once that was no longer a factor for him, it made it possible to just sort of fall apart. Made it possible to fall apart. And that was not probably a good thing. That was not probably a good thing at all. But uh, the thing of it is that we can like incubate. We can incubate these things for a very, very, very long time before it knocks us flying. If we do this, keep calm and carry on and don't allow ourselves the space or the time to feel what we feel. So it is absolutely essential to allow ourselves the space, allow ourselves the time, allow ourselves like the rage or the pain, the grief, the like whatever it is that comes up, because when we're facing these kinds of circumstances, whatever they may be, when we're facing these kinds of circumstances and we adopt this keep calm and carry on, we can actually do ourselves so much harm, so much harm. So it's important to allow ourselves that time and that space, allow yourself to fall apart. And here's the other really interesting thing about this. We're talking about this building these emotional muscles, right? If you've ever talked to a trainer or um like anybody who does the physical fitness kind of stuff, right? If you've ever talked to them about how this happens, did you know that in order to build that muscle, we actually have to tear it a little bit? It's the healing from the tears that actually strengthens that muscle. So as we use it, we cause damage to the muscle, and that healing process is what creates the strength and creates that resilience in that muscle. Isn't that interesting? So here's the thing, if we allow ourselves to have that space of falling apart and um, that space of breakdown, we're actually giving ourselves the opportunity to build that muscle. Do you see what I'm saying? There's a direct correlation. If you just keep pushing through and you don't take time to deal with your stuff, you're missing out on so much of what could come to you from that. We have this massive snowstorm this morning, and so I'm watching and I'm looking at the tree right now, and that's what's made me think about this. I was thinking about avalanches this morning because I go outside, to shovel the whatever, and the snow is just softly falling. And then I looked over at the tree, and there's these spots where just these like piles of snow are falling down, and I'm like, wow, what is going on? And I realized what it was that it's almost like an avalanche. It's almost like a mini avalanche because there's so much snow on top of those branches that it just takes one little tiny, gently falling snowflake to knock the whole thing down. And that's what happens, right? That's what happens. There can be domino effects. It can be like whatever language, whatever visuals work for you. But if we push ourselves too hard and don't allow ourselves the time to heal and the time to deal with our feelings, then what happens is that little tiny snowflake's going to come and we're going to snap. We're going to snap, and it may or may not be good. It may or may not be good. So, yeah. Hmm. And also, one last thing before we head to our last break. One last thing. Have you ever noticed the people who have been through the hardest stuff in your world? You know, those ones now, I mean, there are some that get kind of bitter and maybe that's not helpful. But the ones that have developed a gentleness and a wisdom and a softness, and isn't that just the most beautiful thing? It's the most beautiful thing because we got this like this thing that could take us down, and we use it and it's creating this space of knowledge and wisdom and love and compassion. And isn't that just lovely? Yeah. So I'm thinking about how we can allow these things to break us down, and the thing that comes out of that is something so beautiful. Yeah. All right. So we're going to head to our last break. We're going to head to our last break. You're with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. We are talking about strength and resilience today and how building those muscles can actually help us to build a foundation that can withstand any storm. So stick with us. We're going to come back and wrap up this conversation in just a moment.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? Our subliminal soundtrack plays in the back of our minds 24/7. It's filled with everything we've ever learned about money, relationships, body, and sexuality, about every single aspect of our lives. If you don't have what you desire, the Subliminal Soundtrack Reset program may be the very key to changing it all. In this 8-week program, designed by Jackie Mott, you'll learn to replace messages that stop your desires with new ones that not only support you in creating what you truly desire, but expand your life to higher levels of joy and pleasure. Go to phoenixcoach.ca today to sign up and begin creating your life on purpose.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to the last segment of today's show. You're with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. My voice is starting to go, so I'm glad we're coming up to the end of it, the end of the show here. So, today we're talking about strength and resilience and how to build those muscles so that you can build that foundation that can withstand any storm. So we're talking about this, like tapping into that potency, tapping into that inner part of you that sometimes we don't really get a chance to see, and how beautiful it can be, right? How beautiful is it that like we were talking about those people that have been through such difficult things, and they come away with this softness and this kindness. They've still got that resilience, and I guarantee you that they know because they've done it. And that's where the real knowing comes from, is when we have done it. so many times. I know that I can get through. Okay, I'll share with you one more personal thing. Um, there was a moment when I was really struggling, probably about a year ago. I don't remember exactly what the circumstances were. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But I remember having this moment where I went, wait, if I can survive this 27-year relationship, the thing that I had built all of my dreams on, the things that I had built my whole world around, if I can survive that ending, I think I can probably get through anything. Yeah, right? That's what I'm talking about. There's that knowing that no matter what comes my way, and that can be, I mean, maybe it's faith, maybe it's trust, maybe it's, I don't know. I don't know what you want to call it. But the thing of it is that we can get to this point with this resilience muscle where we just go, I've got this. I've got this. And how lovely is that? So we need to believe in ourselves. We need to believe in our ability to get through whatever comes our way. Some things will hit us harder than others, but the truth is, you have a 100% success rate at surviving every difficult thing that life has thrown at you. Listen to that again. You have a 100% success rate for surviving every difficult thing that life has thrown at you. So the next time something comes up, remember that. Remember that piece. You've gotten through everything else. You will get through this thing too. All right. Now, there is one quote that I wanted. I just love this one. It's actually one of my favorites. It's by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And it says, what lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. You, my friend, have depths of strength that you may never have seen. You may never have tapped into. You may never have had the opportunity to see how truly potent and strong and resilient and amazing you are. You may never have had that opportunity. Now you have an opportunity. So the next time you're facing a difficult circumstance, that's what you got to think about. I will get through this. I will get through this no matter what. You've got this, right? You've got this. You've got everything inside you that you need to get through any difficult circumstance that comes your way. How wonderful is that? Yeah. All right. So we're coming right up on the end of the show here, guys. We're right down to the wire. There's one more thought that I want to share with you. And then I've got a quote that I wrote this morning. So when we fall apart, we have a choice of how we put those pieces back together when we pick them up. We have a choice. So I'm going to ask you to just play with this idea about picking up those pieces and putting them back together in a bit of a different configuration and what you can create, because you are allowed to decide how you show up in this world. You are allowed to decide who you be. How wonderful is that? All right. So the quote that I'm going to leave you with, I wrote this morning, says, the truth is that you have a 100% success rate for surviving everything life has thrown at you, and you have the strength and resilience to get through everything else that comes your way. It's the demons we dance with that help us see our depths. So don't be afraid of the shadows. Just keep dancing, my beautiful friend. I like that one. All right. So we're going to be back next Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 Mountain Time, and 10 Pacific. I hope you will come back and join us next week. Next week's show is called Let It Breathe, Sitting with Your Pain. Ooh, that one's either going to be really good or, of course, it's going to be really good. We're going to be talking about allowing yourself the space and time to process and heal from your pain rather than rushing the process and pushing it away. So thank you so very much for being with me today. I just love doing the show. I've got some great, brilliant people that work with me. Jen's with me today. Kim's with me sometimes. Christine's with me other times. We are so blessed to have some of the greatest producers out there. I love it. They help us to stay on track. I've got this little timer thing that she lets me know where I'm at and how much time I've got left. So thank you so much for joining me today on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott of Subliminal Soundtrack Mastery. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining us for Time to Rise and Thrive radio show. Jackie Mott will return next Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Have a fantastic week, and remember, it's your time to rise and thrive.